Coming up on Windows Weekly, Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are tuning in live from Ignite. That's right, I get to sit down with them and sort of decompress after that event earlier this week and learn about everything that was announced and have them help me make sense of it. Stay tuned, this is a great episode that ends with whiskey.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly, episode 646, recorded November 6th, 2019. Sort of live from Ignite. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Worldwide Technology. Worldwide Technology's Advanced Technology Center is like no other testing and research lab, with more than $500 million of equipment, including OEMs like NetApp, and it's virtual, so you can access it 24/7. To learn more and get insights into all that it offers, go to wwt.com/twit. And by ExpressVPN. Protect your online privacy with one click. Yep, it's that easy. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/windows. And by Melissa. Bad data happens to good companies. That's why 10,000 businesses count on Melissa for clean, reliable address data. Get started today with 25,000 records cleaned for free at melissa.com/twit. Hello and welcome back to Windows Weekly. Of course, this is a weekly look at all things Microsoft, including Windows, Office, Xbox, and so much more from 2 of the foremost Windows watchers in the world. Not window washers, but Windows watchers in the world.
That's our next career.
Thank you. That is Paul Thurrott of Thurrott.com. Hello, Paul.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for, I say that a lot, but genuinely, as I was getting ready for today, I thought, I'm really excited to talk to them about what I saw earlier this week.
I eagerly await the reverse.
Yes. And, of course, Mary Jo Foley of All About Microsoft. Hello, Mary Jo.
Hello, Micah.
Well, you are...
I have a question up front, Mary Jo. How did you get your room to be so bright?
Yeah, look at you. You're glowing.
Yeah, so I have the curtains open, and I have a light on next to me. Try opening your curtains.
That sounds like a...
Is it too bright?
No, I don't think
it looks
so.
Good.
No.
Yeah, you've got a nice healthy glow. Looks good. Yeah, so you're not in your normal spaces, your normal places. You are coming at us live from Orlando, Florida. Is that correct?
Yes, we are in Orlando at the... Is it called Orange County Convention Center?
Yeah,
Orange County.
At the Hyatt
the
Regency
name.
That's connected to the convention center.
That's
the OCCC.
So we're here.
Yeah, the OCCC.
Yeah. We're here with 25,000 people.
We're back in the
25,000 people in us.
Wow, 25,000. That's quite a number.
It's a big show.
Is it humid there? I always wonder. Florida, I just think of it as a big bucket of humidity. Is it humid there?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Brutal.
I'm sorry.
It started off nice on the first day, got a little more humid, and then today it went right back to welcome to Florida. It's like getting hit in the face with a closing door.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I understand now. I'd want to close the curtains, turn up the AC, get a dehumidifier for the room, and just say, I'm not going out there.
So I will say, it's still better than Vegas. It's not a bad setup. As Mary Jo and I were discussing the other day, it's 20 minutes from the airport. We don't really ever leave our complex too much, and so, we have a couple of events that are exterior or outside, but we're pretty much just connecting from the hotel to the convention center. They're right next to each other.
Oh, okay.
It's not horrible.
That's not. Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. Then now, is everybody? I assume can they fit 25,000 people in that hotel? Or
no.
There are
people are staying really far away and taking buses and taxis and everything to get here.
Oh, my. Now, that is actually, I want to start there. So earlier this week, Jason Howell and I covered the Microsoft Ignite Vision keynote. And
what do you think of that name, by the way? How would you feel as a presenter being told that your talk is going to be called the Vision Keynote?
Well, maybe if I was Satya Nadella, it would make perfect sense because it's what his sort of mind seems to kind of click with that. But yeah, if I was one of the other presenters, I would say okay, so is this just all intangible stuff? Because that's what it seemed like I was going to be getting into.
Well, it's all cloud stuff, so yes.
It felt like more of a, not what it actually was. So separate from what it actually was, hearing it called the Vision Keynote, that makes me think of a company leader who's saying, okay, over the course of the next year, we're going to maximize profits. We're going to leave things, it felt... No,
it was actual products and services.
Right.
So I think that the part that you're probably not super familiar with, and honestly, even in the Microsoft world that we're in, it's still kind of a newish thing. Mm-hmm. Satya Nadella has his own style. And I think in the beginning, when he first started coming out on stage at events, it was kind of like the old Microsoft style. And I don't think that his personality or his style kind of works well within those confines. And so they've been evolving it. And for whatever it's worth, again, we're really curious about your take on this, but just watching him evolve as a speaker over the past 5 years or so, whatever it's been, I feel like they finally settled on a format that actually works well for him, And there were moments where he was just kind of walking around in the show floor, basically. And I thought it was reasonably natural, and I thought it was kind of interesting. I thought it made it feel more like a live thing than a canned presentation.
I quite liked the parts where he was on, now I'm coming to you live from the show floor. That was really fun.
Yeah. But, so last year he did what you would think was a vision keynote, right? Really high level, conceptual, almost no mention of any products. And this year it was 180 degrees different, right? Yeah. It was all products, like product. And the reason I think they are doing that now is because that is how AWS does their show called AWS reInvent. And I think they were trying to make it more like that.
Interesting. Okay. See, I didn't know about AWS. I feel like
he's also, he almost behaves like the glue for the show, or for the keynote, right? So
he does.
Even though he's the primary speaker. So obviously they bring up people that do demos and little sideshow things. And if you think about the vision bit in a way, it's sort of the stuff that's in between those things, right? In other words, he speaks to at a high level. Mm-hmm. And then the people who do demos speak more down at what is happening with the actual product or service.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I thought it worked. I mean, we've kind of complained in the past that some of his speeches weren't necessarily well constructed, and that maybe he would have been better off coming in at the end and just delivering the vision thing at the end. But he is obviously the public face of the company. He's definitely improved, and I think they've kind of mapped the show more to his strengths. And I think it went well.
I have there's a soft spot in my heart for Satya and so regardless of improvements or lack of improvements or anything like that, I genuinely do like the guy. And so seeing this and seeing him play the Stranger Things game was kind of fun. Now there was one question. Karsten came in and said, "Okay, you got to ask them this. How many times did they say the word Windows during the Ignite keynote? Did you pay attention to that? Because I know it's been fewer in the past, and now maybe, there were some Windows, what is it?
Let me give you the Microsoft marketing spin on that one.
Okay.
You see, Windows is an ingredient in a bigger offering that we have called Microsoft 365. Don't fall asleep, Mary Jo. And
no, I'm trying to fix my power connector. I'm like,
Windows. There was some Windows news at the show. If you happen to scan over the show notes, you will notice that Windows is way down at the bottom of our list of items to speak about. I mean, this show is very cloud heavy, and cloud is a lot of things. But, Azure, Microsoft 365 was very, those things were very prominent. And this show is at its heart, although it's evolved, is really about productivity and IT. And now they're throwing developer in as well. And, that's not really the stuff that is related to that in Windows has been cemented in place for many years. Mm-hmm. So, there was not a lot of Windows for sure.
Well, and one of the things that I really noticed here, I was kind of talking about the difference between this keynote, or this event rather, versus Google I/O, which is Google's developer-focused conference, and WWDC, is that Microsoft has a huge portion of its business that's, these big businesses and the IT professionals and things like that. And so it makes sense that this conversation is going to be about the products that are there. But genuinely, it made it difficult as a person who is covering news that is most often geared toward the consumer, to make sure that I was giving the keynote and the keynote presenters the sort of room to explain what they're doing without adding color commentary that didn't, because all of these things were interesting, and there were some very cool features. And Mary Jo, honestly, you did a fantastic job. I gave you a shout out because your stuff on ZDNet was from All About Microsoft was so helpful in sort of breaking down,
just understanding
those high level things.
Good.
So
nice.
Appreciate that.
So Mary Jo, obviously, this is her wheelhouse.
This is my Super Bowl.
There you go.
Super Bowl, yeah.
For someone like me, like you, I mean, I cover more of the consumer angle, and I guess in the Microsoft world, we'll call that like the client angle, right? And so, the client is, the Office applications on whatever platform, Windows, obviously, Microsoft Edge, things like that. So these are, in the scheme of Ignite, peripheral,
Right.
They're central to me, but the reality is this show is about other things, and it's
about
this is
tech
definitely
intensity.
for IT pros. Yeah. Oh, don't even say that word, Micah. That's banned. That's banned from the show.
That
Tech
I really
intensity.
can't. If it's banned, then we can't talk about this.
The best part about this event, honestly, for me, other than Kyle's 5 minutes of sticker talk, was this.
Let me say how it opens.
Literally.
So Satya. No, wait. So Satya opens this show, and he said, "This entire keynote is going to be about tech intensity." And anybody who knows me knows that is a buzzword that just makes me go crazy. So this was my face when he said it.
It was even better because he actually. We'll have to go find the exact tape of this, but he said something like, "I want to talk today about tech intensity." Mary Jo's like, "Ah!" And then he says, "Actually, the entire keynote today is about tech." And then she just it was like one of those Warner Brother cartoons where her head kind of came up and steam came out. And it was really funny.
But
but I can tell you what tech intensity means. Okay,
what it actually means, because he explained what it meant with a formula. Which just threw me off even more.
It's literally a mathematical formula. Yeah,
I know.
So
what it really means. What it really means is Microsoft is noticing that their customers are getting more technical, and that every company is becoming a tech company, even if they're not a tech vendor, right? So in the past, you had this group of people inside your company who knew about technology, right? Mm-hmm. But now these companies are so permeated by technology that it's everywhere, and Microsoft's having a different level of conversation with them about technology.
So look,
that's what it means.
This show is not about me, but I have to pat myself on the back right here, because that is, I remember you saying this in a previous conversation. And when we were covering the keynote that morning, I explained tech intensity in that way. So thank you for explaining it to me before.
Job.
And I remembered, yay, I'm so excited. So it's kind of, now that the companies have this technology, everybody's using tech, then Microsoft can send. Is it the idea that you can count on these companies to understand, and so then you can empower them a little bit more with the more in-depth technology?
Right.
Cool.
Totally. That's it.
So one of the things that was mentioned that I immediately kind of froze up on, and this is just I think an aspect of me not understanding sort of database management, but what does it mean when we say helping IT pros manage their edge? What is the edge? Where is the edge? I know the world is not square, so where, as far as I understand it.
It's the thing before there be dragons.
Oh, okay. Now I understand. Move on. Let's go to the next thing.
So edge for them, not edge as in the browser, but the edge is basically IoT devices and even PCs, even servers, right? Anything that's out on the edge of the network that may be disconnected sometimes, may be connected sometimes. It's just saying it's not your central control plane, but it's all the things that connect to it.
Okay.
That's how I would describe it.
So now we have IT pros being able to control their edge. What did we do before Microsoft came in and provided a way for them to manage this stuff?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times they were just disconnected, right? They were just not centrally managed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you had to go to the edge and manage the
You had to
there.
physically go to the edge, not fall over the edge.
I see now. See, it makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
And now this is Azure Arc, correct? This is the thing that's sort of sending out lines to the edge and helping the company manage. I think that there was a demo showing how you could easily go into this this portal and see the different devices that were in different cities and states. And I thought it looked a little goofy in terms of the actual UI, but the tools that were available there are, I would imagine, incredible and helpful for IT pros who don't want to have to take a plane to get to the things that they need to manage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea of Azure Arc, it's Microsoft's hybrid strategy in version 2.0, right? So for them, they've had Azure Stack, that's their on-premises version of Azure that people can run in their own data centers. Then they have regular Azure, which is the public cloud. Their idea is, what if we gave you a portal in Azure and you could use it to manage all of your devices, even if they're not on our cloud? Like, say you've got something running in AWS, you could see it through that portal and basically apply all of the rules that Microsoft has, their security, their compliance, the management tools, to all these things wherever they are, even if they're not in Microsoft devices or on their servers.
Wow.
That's it.
That's kind of a big deal.
It is.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
It was hard to understand because what they also did here at the show was they rebranded a bunch of the Azure stuff, and that got kind of thrown in with Arc, right? So Azure Stack is now called Azure Stack Hub instead of Azure Stack.
Just
Azure Stack.
Another word on it, yeah.
Yeah, Azure Stack Data Box Edge, which is an appliance you can use.
I'm so sorry. Was that a real thing that you just said?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, I thought you were doing like a joke about you've got Azure Stack.
I'm not even making this up.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's a data transfer appliance, which also has some compute power on the appliance. So instead of calling that Azure Stack Data Box Edge, they now call that Azure Stack Edge.
Oh.
Which is a simpler name.
Yeah, it is simpler. That's good.
Yeah, and then there's also this thing called Azure Hci Hyper-Converged Infrastructure, which is taking, I'm not even making this up. This is taking your on-premises products and hooking them up to Azure and making use of Azure that way.
Okay.
You can almost do a skit here where she's describing all these different Azure products, and in between them is the sound of like someone fast forwarding. It's like zzz, Azure high-end, Azure, it's amazing. I mean, how many brands they have.
Yeah,
I know.
But for the folks who need this stuff,
go
ahead.
I was going to say, did you watch our post Keynote coverage at all?
Yes.
When we did our little. Okay, so then I actually called Azure HCI a gateway drug, which I heard a lot about from Microsoft afterwards. They're like, Mary Jo, you called it a gateway drug.
You're like, yeah, that is what I called it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I wanted to see that you both held to your not promise, but you held to your plans about using the machines that you said you were going to use. So
yes,
we streamed that, and I got to see the sand.
That happened approximately 42 minutes later than it was supposed to.
Right.
We didn't get as much time as we were supposed to have, et cetera. The day just kind of careened out of control there, but.
Yeah.
Well, when you spend 5 to 15 minutes on stickers, that can happen.
Yep.
What was I want to understand that from, okay, so if you didn't get a chance to watch the keynote, folks, basically before the keynote was starting, they were talking to different people who were there at Ignite, but they had some interviews from the show floor, and they went over and they had this interview about different stickers that were available. And at first, I was okay. I thought, okay, yeah, fun stickers. That's cute.
Sorry to interrupt, but we know that guy very well. He's a good friend of ours. And we were sitting in our little terrarium thing watching this occur, and I was like, you could just see the credibility leave this guy's body and float into space.
I felt bad for him because it was clear that he was trying to come up with new questions.
Of course, it's not his fault, but he had a full 5 minutes. So he literally said at one point, he asked the woman, he said, so I know you have a lot of stickers here, but do you do anything other than stickers? And she said, yeah, we also have some candy, but really the focus is on the stickers.
I saw there
and you just kind of saw him. He just got white and kind of, you could just see him like staring off into space, like thinking, what happened to my career?
I know. I know.
Those Starbright mints. Well,
Kyle is such a nice guy. And, he brought, he did.
He really was trying, which I appreciated, to have a conversation. And it was, like I said, I liked the idea that there's a little bit of a personalized or like people kind of touch to it. But what I found fascinating is after the keynote wrapped and then we switched to you find folks talking about the keynote post keynote. The two people you were talking to, their computers were covered in stickers, and then yours were pristine and untouched by stickers.
I can't put a sticker on this beautiful sandstone thing, can I?
No.
Yeah.
And Elvis can't have stickers on him either. It's too perfect.
I did eventually put a new Chrome logo sticker on mine.
This one? This little Chrome logo?
Oh, I need one of those. That's Credge.
It's Credge.
As I said, I'm credging it up.
It's so pretty. It's so pretty. So, I mean, that pretty much covers Azure going to the, gives you a high-level view of Azure going to the edge. Let's talk about my favorite one, which sounds like a sort of bench press move, Power Platform. What is happening there? What's changed? I know that we've got some really interesting, creating virtual agents. I thought this was a great demo. You could basically go in and automate a bunch of stuff and create a virtual agent. It could be helpful for teachers, for businesses, and I think some if this then that, but even more in-depth support.
Put on steroids.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
Yep.
That's exactly right.
And this is all Power Platform?
It is. Yeah, so Power Platform is Power BI, that's your analytics, Power Apps, that's your app development platform. And there's a thing that used to be called Flow, which is now called Power Automate. That also got rebranded.
Gotcha.
So those three tools together are basically what the Power Platform is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the show, they talked about some new capabilities coming to Power Automate, and then they also talked about those agents you're talking about. So what they did was they took the Microsoft Bot framework and they mashed it together with Flow, or is it with Power Apps? I can't remember. I think I think it's a whole Power Platform. So if you want to build a bot and you think, I don't know how to even start doing that, because Power Platform is for no code, low code scenarios, they're saying you could become a developer of a bot even if you know nothing about AI.
Even you can build bots.
Well, you're sort of building a flow chart. If you think about it. What are the types of conversations that you might have with a bot in whatever scenario, that you call a business and you get through that first layer of whatever it is and you have to ask questions and so forth. What are the various paths that this conversation could take? It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
This
is their sticker.
Oh my goodness. This keynote has great stickers. This event has great stickers.
Right. Less code, more power.
Now, I like the idea of empowering any user to be able to create the whatever it happens to be that they want to manage. And so I thought that this was a very feel-good moment in a way where you don't have to call your IT team or talk to the developer that's busy with I'm sure a billion products of their own. You can go ahead and create something. And what I liked about it, what it seems is that it's not just as simple as here is a set of things that you can do and you can sort of create a workflow. But instead, it sort of works like a macro system where you can record the things that you're doing and then make that into a workflow. And that's kind of next level, but it's from a point of view that makes sense to the average user as opposed to it you needing to be super developer-minded.
The thing that some people may not be aware of is that Microsoft has spent a long time trying to get non-developers to essentially be developers, right? They've had so many products over the years, from PowerShell for admins to Visual Studio Lighthouse. It kind of goes on and on and on. And just even the macro things like you mentioned, or this isn't so much developer focused, but there's a feature in Windows 10 that's very similar to this, where you actually go through the steps of what caused a problem, and it takes screenshots as you go, or makes a little movie. And the idea is that you're creating what are essentially steps like to duplicate a problem. So this has been a long time goal of theirs, and this one seems like it's the closest to actually making sense. Mary Jo mentioned no code, low code. The goal, of course, is no code, but it seems like in more cases than ever before, that's could potentially be a reality for people. It's very powerful, and I think that explains the name. And we'll see. This is something I came to the show specifically focused on this. I really want to learn more about the Power Platform, and specifically Power Apps and Power Automate. Very, very interested in this kind of stuff. But I think this is a big deal.
Yeah, I want to come back to that. What in heaven's name was that?
That was Brad Sams.
So I want to come back to not that, but I want to come back to Power Platform. But first, we need to take a little break here. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Worldwide Technology. That's right, WWT. See, WWT began building their Advanced Technology Center, that's ATC, about 10 years ago, and it has grown exponentially. It's like no other testing and research lab. The lab contains more than $500 million in equipment from hundreds of OEMs and key partners ranging from heavyweights like NetApp, Cisco, and VMware to emerging disruptors like Tanium, Equinix, and Expanse. WWT is a trusted partner who stays with you over the years. Many of their customers have been with them for over a decade because they know WWT is where they can go to get the answers they need to make sure their business runs right. Their ATC is an incubator for IT innovations and offers on-demand and schedulable labs like NetApp Cloud Volumes ONTAP on Flash, NetApp Disaster Recovery as a Service, along with hundreds of other labs representing newest advances in flash storage, multi-cloud, hyper-converged infrastructure, cloud data management, and more. You can learn about products before you launch. WWT's engineers use these environments to quickly spin up proofs of concept and pilots using the sandbox so customers can confidently select the best solutions. In fact, in many cases, this reduces concept time from months to weeks, which increases speed to market. They offer Lab as a Service, a dedicated lab space within the ATC. Here, customers can perform programmatic testing using the vast technology ecosystem that WWT has already built. And it's virtual, so you can take full advantage of ATC's unique benefits anywhere in the world, 24/7. WWT engineers work in these labs every day, beta testing new equipment and building reference architectures and custom integrations to help their customers make decisions and see results faster and with much less investment. WWT has launched their new digital platform encompassing the ATC ecosystem. This ecosystem creates a multiplier effect of knowledge, speed, and agility anytime, anywhere around the world for their customers. You can get access to articles, case studies, hands-on labs, and other tools that make the difference in today's fast-paced world. To learn more about WWT, the ATC, and to sign up for access to their new on-demand lab platform, go to wwt.com/twit. WWT simplifies the complex. That's wwt.com/twit. WWT, delivering business and technology outcomes around the world. And we thank you, WWT, for sponsoring this week's episode of Windows Weekly. All right, so here's my question. We've got Flow, we've got Power Automate, which was Flow.
Yep.
My question is, how can I, the average user, the one who just has a new Elvis machine but is super curious about the Power Platform, can I take advantage of this, Paul? Is this something that I can go? I don't know. Do I go to a website? Do I get an app? When's it coming?
Exactly. Yeah. So I have the same question actually.
Oh, good.
So I have. This is not like I said. I came here to learn about this. I kind of asked them this. I actually, as of this second, I don't know. I think if you go to the Power Apps part of the Microsoft website, you'll probably learn what I will learn when I get out of the show. Is how to do that. Do you have any idea, Mary Jo, how this works? Because this is actually the big confusion for me right now as well.
Right. So Donna Sarkar, who used to run the Windows Insider program and now is one of the main evangelists on Power Platform, she sent me something about starting. She said you could even build Mary Jo, could build a Power App. Right. And she told me to start with the Power Apps Canvas demo. And that's like kind of a drag and drop thing where you could see how easy it is to kind of pull things together in a drag and drop style and build something like as your first app.
Okay. So, how do I go to the Canvas?
I'm a little confused, but I still don't understand where this lives. Does the Power Platform sort of become the new what we used to think of as a macro language for everything? If I want to drive some sort of an automation from Microsoft Word. would that be something that happens inside of Microsoft Word? Or is there a central, they're not going to call it this, but a Visual Studio style environment from which all automations will occur or whatever?
So my understanding of this is Power Apps, that platform is the thing, the one piece of that platform that has the canvas. So if you search for Power Apps and Canvas,
if you go to powerapps.microsoft.com,
yeah,
I'm seeing,
and there's also documentation, and it says what are Canvas apps if you go to Microsoft Docs. But then the thing you're talking about, Paul, is more like Power Automate, right? So if you know what if this then that is, that's how that works, right?
Yeah. Or like Zapier, which is a sponsor here on the Twit Network. Now, along with Power Apps and Power Automate, one of the things that I found fascinating, not for myself, but for somebody who has to make sense of a lot of analytics and dig into data and understand how it all works, was the Power BI. So it's my understanding, and I'm curious if this is what it is, it's enabling some AI technologies to take huge chunks of data and to say, okay, I want to dig in and find out what these little bits and pieces actually mean and how I can sort of, what's the word? I can use them to inform what I do next. Is that what Power BI is? Or maybe you can give a better a better explanation of it.
So when I think of Power BI, I think of it as an analytics service, right? So if you want to create visualizations and do business intelligence kinds of analyses, you use Power BI. So it's not, even though it has AI in it, it's more for people who have to create, a way to interpret data and a way to better understand data visually.
Okay.
That's how I would describe it.
Okay, so it's all about visualizing the data.
And it's external data, right? So Microsoft has its Microsoft Graph technology, which is for finding information inside of an organization, no matter where it's stored or how it's stored. And in some ways, the Power BI stuff it's not analogous. It's not the same technology, but in fact, it's far more powerful in many ways. But it's about getting external signals, and putting them together in a way that it gives you actionable information. It's incredibly powerful. Which again,
I know if you've ever seen the visualizations, they can be like really kind of stunning, right? Like how many things you can actually. Levels you can go into to look at things. And so if you have like a lot of things inside your organization, company data, and you want to figure out like who's actually selling the most something, right? This will give you a whole way to look at this visually and have better understandings of what kinds of analyses can be done on your data.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I am currently on flow.microsoft.com, which is now called Power Automate. And I'm curious. So I asked the engineers to pull a quick over-the-shoulder shot, so it's a little bit difficult here. It's a little unfocused, but that's because I asked them this last minute. What I'm curious about is if this looks how it used to, or if this is genuinely the new stuff that we're working with now. Here comes the focus. There we go.
Oh, look at that.
So over on the left side.
It's like an eye test. Oh, no, I like B better than A.
Yeah. Is it this or this?
Yeah.
This? Over here on the side, we've got like my flows, templates. So some of the branding is still showing as flow.
Yeah, I don't think this has changed.
Okay.
And again, as far as flow is concerned, or Power Automate, that's really... Well, actually, there have been improvements, but I mean, most of it is just the branding change.
Gotcha. Well, I guess I'll be digging into that soon because I'm curious about that. So
me too. I'm really, really interested in this.
So should folks kind of be on the lookout on your blog, on Twitter? Where can I go to get the fastest information about how I can start playing around with this?
From me?
Yeah.
It will be on the site. It will be on threat.com.
Excellent.
I mean, I just I'm almost done with my little Notepad developer thing. There'll be future projects, but this Power Apps, Power Automate stuff is probably going to be the very next thing.
Perfect. All right. Up next, it looks like we have Project Cortex. Now, this is. I love they've got so many different names for so many different things.
It's funny you should say that because there was a last-second change to this, and one of my little kind of brain farts there on stage was stumbling over this name. because we were told at the last second we had to use this name, and it was like,
I think I remember that moment, and they were like, "It's okay, this all just came out."
There's so much stuff, and I said, "No, it's worse than you think." It's like we were literally just told, "Don't use use this name instead of some other name," and it's just hard to keep it all.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
Now, this is another area. So, other than the workflow thing, this Project Cortex stuff. At first, I was a little bit feeling weird because of the privacy implications. However, upon thinking about the sort of, as we talked about, it's the productivity aspect of it and letting people get at information. I was thinking about how, not so much here at Twit, we do use some chat applications to communicate with each other, but it's not so full that we do it all the time. But at the previous company that I worked for, we lived in Slack, and people are sending messages in different Slack channels and creating a bunch of information that, if it could be leveraged, would help people to not have to keep asking questions and having them answered. And so Project Cortex, as they call a knowledge management service, what I love about this is, and I am not explaining this to you two, I'm explaining it to any of the listeners that might not know.
I'm dying to hear an explanation of what this is. Please continue.
Yeah. Okay, so what Project Cortex is, what I find fascinating is that it basically takes the thing that you stick it to, and so your organization in this example, and it will turn that into a knowledge base that can then be accessed across all the different tools. So Microsoft 365, and that means, and what is it, Microsoft Teams? Is that the other part of it? And so it reminds me of websites that I always wanted them to do this. There'd be like a double underline under a word, but when you scrolled over it, instead of it actually telling you about the word, it just showed you an ad or something like that.
Yeah, but what it should have been is like more information about that term.
Right, and that's what this does. So I could get an email that says, it's from somebody, and I'm a newer employee, and it has some acronym in it that I don't know. I scroll over the acronym, I get this little info card, I can see what the acronym's about, but then it takes it even further. You can go and click on that. It pulls up like a Wikipedia page, essentially, but within your company, and it will give you the information about it. It will tell you who the people are that are experts on the topic. I think this is wonderful, and I would nerd out just watching some case studies about this. I just want to see a company attach this to their Microsoft Teams Office 365 stuff. So, Mary Jo, what did I miss about Project Cortex that makes it so cool?
I am just sitting here saying you just described it better than I've heard anybody describe it.
Oh, that's so sweet.
No, really. That is exactly what it's going to do. So, we think about all, like you said, all the things that are in Teams, right? All the conversations people are having, also videos that people make using Microsoft Stream technology. Sometimes what's happening now is like a company employees are creating their own little mini training videos inside their company, and they're just posting them somewhere. And if other people knew where they were, they could access them and say, oh, somebody's already answered this question, right? So they're taking all of this kind of data, documents, conversations, meetings, and even just things people have got in their own heads that sometimes they may jot down somewhere, and they're like, I hope somebody can find that someday. I just explained, how to build a rocket ship. I hope somebody knows, Yeah. So they're taking all these things using the Microsoft Graph technology, which is their centralized API that connects all these different sources inside of Microsoft. Then they're building on top of that with AI, all different kinds of cognitive skills. So like machine teaching and AI builder. There's technology for mapping, basically mapping out those topic cards like you're talking about. And they pull this all together and they make it into a service. So there's not going to be a knowledge management app on your desktop. That's not how that's going to work. It's going to be you're inside of Outlook or you're inside of Word, and you need like a contact card or a topic list will be available to you so that you can go find this information more easily without having to know in advance how to search for it.
Yeah, I think a lot about how there's a huge workflow barrier for new folks joining a company. If you don't perfectly get them integrated into the process and explain everything, you suddenly are losing so much time, so much energy is being devoted to that. And I think this could be a very powerful tool for loads of companies, and will probably also decrease mistakes that happen at companies.
Right.
They showed the Red Cross as an example for something else. However, thinking about the Red Cross being able to leverage this technology for their systems, a lot of Red Cross people are volunteers. If they were able to use this to sort of give somebody to bring them in and give them, what they need to know, and when they don't know something, to be able to, once again, empower those people to learn those things themselves. I think Project Cortex was probably, next to the workflow stuff, the thing I was most excited about from the perspective of just how good the technology is for using or for people to use.
Yeah, agree. I think it was that and Azure Arc to me were kind of the biggest announcements of the show. But Cortex, I think people are only starting to get their head around how this is really different from what Microsoft already has with Microsoft Search and SharePoint, and how this could have many implications for how you do your job in the future.
Now, there was one part. Were you going to say something, Paul?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Just agreeing.
There was one part where they typed in email I sent to blah, blah on Tuesday. Was that part of Cortex, or was that something else? Do you remember
that? Sounds like... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just curious if you remember that moment. Yeah.
I was going to say it was just natural language search, Microsoft Search, like the Bing integration.
Oh, that could have been, yeah.
Could be wrong. Yeah. So, and it's interesting because we don't actually have this in the show notes, but one of the things that was kind of presented as part of an Edge announcement was this notion of Microsoft Search being integrated into Bing. And the idea there is that you go to the web and you type an address bar search, right? So you could say, what's the weather? But you could ask a question like the one you just asked. And what you'll get is results from within your organization, right in the web browser.
Yes, I remember that.
I think that's incredibly powerful. The comment I had made about it at the show at the time was that, Microsoft spent a bunch of time trying to integrate web search results into local search results in Windows. And I never really saw the value of that per se, where you could kind of pivot a search term from, the apps and documents on your computer to the web. And it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, that might be useful sometimes, but if you're signed into the new Edge browser or whatever with your Microsoft account, with your Azure Active Directory account, your work account, you can get these internal results right in the browser. And I actually think that's a very natural thing to do.
Yeah,
that type of search. So I thought that was that's actually a very interesting idea.
I had mentioned one of the ways that I was asking you, okay, how do I do spotlight search on a Windows machine, which I now know. And that's sort of the way that I think in search terms. And so being able to go as far as, and this was very disappointing, by the way, Microsoft, they asked, can I bring my dog to work? And apparently, or can I bring my dog to work? And it was smart enough to know a dog is a pet, and it showed in the Microsoft policy.
I thought that was a dumb example. And there were actually some people from Microsoft on hand who were a little upset with that example because actually that is the official policy, but plenty of people bring dogs to work and it's not really a problem. I think they have to do it. It's one of those sensitivity things, right? So obviously if there is a person who is allergic to dogs or just doesn't like the idea of dogs in the office, if they complain,
then there would be a conversation had. Yeah.
So there is, well, then they can say, look, we do have this policy. But unless that happens, actually, they do allow people. People do bring in tons of dogs.
I just hope that every single one of Microsoft's recruiters who saw that moment was like,
I thought that was a really poor example.
Yeah,
that wasn't a great
one. About it, but you want to find things that work, whatever those things are. Those things could be people. They could be people that literally, or people that have certain skills that you need for whatever reason, or you just need to know things about HR policies or whatever it is. And obviously, companies create interwebs or intranets and have their own internal apps and so forth. But this ability to query, what is essentially sort of like almost like a Microsoft Graph style interface via the web, I think is just a great idea. And it's very natural. So people of whatever generation, whether it's someone my age or someone much younger than me who's just entering the workforce, I just think it's a natural thing for anyone to do. So that's a smart way to go about that, I thought.
Now, I actually talked about this a little bit on the show that I do with Matthew Casanelli. We do a show called Smart Tech Today on Mondays. And one of the things that was talked about was Cortana. It's still out there, coming to emails and being able to read your emails out loud.
Yeah. We have good news and bad news.
Okay.
For Cortana.
What's the bad news?
Mary Jo, well, we're going to get to that. You do the good news.
Okay.
I'll deliver
the good news. Okay. The good news is we know that Microsoft is pivoting how Cortana is used, right? Instead of making it something you would talk to on a speaker like you do with some of its competitors, they're building it into their apps so that it kind of surfaces naturally, right? And this, so that instead of having it be a separate thing that you treat as a separate assistant, it's more going to be built into things like Outlook and your calendar so that you can use it to more easily do tasks, almost like a real productivity assistant. If you had a secretary who you could say, "What's on? Can you schedule this meeting for me with so and so?" And instead, you kind of use that technology underneath to do that for you. So she's working on your behalf, as Microsoft likes to say. Yeah.
Now that's the good news, but apparently
that sounds good. The problem is, let me just state the explicit thing that's happening, which is Microsoft is killing the standalone Cortana app on mobile, so Android and iOS. It's also killing Cortana in the Microsoft launcher, which is something I don't understand at all, but that's their Android user experience, where you can replace the Android shell with Microsoft shell. So when you think about that at a high level, it kind of maps to what Mary Jo just said. Like, rather than Cortana being this separate experience that you go to, it's integrated into the Microsoft apps, and you're in Word, you're in Outlook, whatever it is, and there are Cortana things you can do there, and that's fine. The problem is, this is a big issue I have with mobile apps, where mobile apps are very specific. You have to think of what you want to do. You're like, well, okay, I want to send an email. That's the Gmail app. That icon looks like this. Where is it? What page is it on my screen? You have to kind of go do that yourself. Or, I want to take a photo or share a photo or something. Like, where's that icon? Where's that app? You go in and out, in and out. The nice thing about assistants on mobile is that you don't have to worry about that stuff. You just hit the button and you talk and it does it. And it doesn't matter where the app is, And so, obviously on iOS, there's a problem there where Microsoft can't integrate Cortana into the OS like they can on Android.
Right.
But the nice thing about, if you wanted to use Cortana, and people do this, you could replace the Google Assistant on the phone with Cortana. So when you long press on that home button, you're getting Cortana. And then you could say, hey, I want to make an appointment and for this time with this person, whatever it is. And it will go and put it into that back-end service that you may access through Outlook. But you don't have to think about Outlook. You just think about the thing you're doing. And so I'm a little concerned by this because I think both approaches make sense. I think getting rid of the standalone Cortana app is makes it less interesting. If I have to go into the app anyway, I have to think what's the app name or where's the app, what does it look like or whatever it is, go to that screen, find I've already done a bunch of the work that the assistant would have done for me. Yeah. So that's the bad news. We need to see what this is going to look like. It's just happening right now. So we'll see how this ends up. But I'm a little concerned about that, I guess.
I think that's a sort of a bigger topic anyway. The idea of multi-assistant options versus like multi-voice options, and how the point that we're all trying to get to is just, I don't care who it is I'm talking to. I just want to
think about it this way. So from Microsoft's perspective, obviously what they want, they don't own mobile, right? So they want you to use their apps and their services. And maybe that app is Outlook, and maybe that service on the back end is like Outlook.com, or Outlook on the web as part of Office 365. That's fine. So does it matter to Microsoft how you create a new appointment in that calendar? If you're on Apple or an iPhone, you use Siri and you speak to it, and as long as it can connect to that back-end thing, do they care if you're using Cortana? No, they care that you're using that thing that's making money for you, right? So I feel like, they're presenting this as kind of see, look, Cortana's still around, it's fine. But the reality is, for people on mobile, if they are going to use voice to do these things through the Outlook app specifically, they're going to use whatever the assistant is on their phone.
Yeah.
I think.
Although,
unless
if you can
unless
say,
the way they think is.
What, yeah, but what if you just can say to your phone, "Play my emails," and you don't really care? Yeah, there's some kind of digital assistant because you're using voice.
That's what I mean. But in other words, right. So, but the point there is, if you do that on Android, it's going to be Google Assistant. If you do that on Apple, it's going to be Siri. Microsoft shouldn't care as long as you're using their backend service. But again, what this all points to is kind of the superfluous nature of Cortana in these scenarios. So in other words, like, it's neat that it's in the app, but and that's fine. It should be, because there are people who will think that way and want to use it that way. But to me, it's just a further de-emphasis of the technology.
I see. So it's you are arguing that because I remember asking a little bit about this. Why don't they call Cortana, or why don't they call all the smart stuff they're doing? Rather, I thought they should call all of the smart stuff they're doing within apps, just call that all Cortana. And you both had kind of explained that no, they're going away from Cortana a little bit. So if now,
and this is it. This is us seeing that happen, right? So in other words, from the perspective of the user, that they may be using Cortana in the app to use voice commands to create an event or whatever, doesn't evoke the name Cortana at all, I guess, unless they have to say, maybe they have to say it in the app, and that's how it works. I don't think that's just a redundant voice control now. So in other words, everywhere else on Android, in my case, I'm going to use the Google Assistant, but when I go into Outlook now, I have to think to use Cortana. Like, I don't.
Do we know the exact way that it's triggered? How does it work in?
No. So I don't think you're going to have to think about what to do. Right. I think it's just going to happen.
Okay.
So do I open the Outlook app? Do I open the Outlook app and say, play my emails? Do I hit a button?
Icon?
How do I know? How do I actually trigger it?
They told me, but I'm forgetting. Sorry. There's I think there's a button, but I'm not positive.
No, I don't know either. I did look. Yeah. I'm not.
Let me try to.
Maybe just to be clear, I should say, it's not Microsoft's fault. There's nothing they can really do about this. The truth is, the Cortana mobile app probably doesn't have a lot of users anyway, et cetera, et cetera. It's just that from Microsoft's perspective, you have to just look at it from their perspective. Like, what's the important thing for them, right? It's that you're paying for Office 365 or extra storage in OneDrive or whatever it is. These are the things where they make money. They're not going to make money directly on Cortana. So supporting this thing as a standalone app actually probably doesn't make sense. But the problem is, it's just a further de-emphasis of this thing. But maybe this is the reality that they've come to, that Cortana will still exist. It's essentially back-end service. It's not that front. It can't be on mobile, because who on earth would ever change the assistant they're using? Why would you ever do that? I mean, most people probably won't.
Right. So I do want to follow up here. I'm seeing the video that they've put out, and it starts with it's showing an iPhone, and the first thing is you plug in your headphones. So they say plug in your headphones, and then a little thing pops up, and it says play my emails. You tap on that, and then it it reads through your emails and kind of gets to know what's going on and tells you about changes to your day, changes to the schedule. However, it doesn't just stop there. You actually can use, as you can see here, hey, gal, or guy, because now we've got a masculine voice too, by the way. And then you can say, so hey, boo-boo, skip, flag, archive, delete.
Right.
So there is still some actual voice back and forth happening, which I think is interesting, because I personally would just be fine with hearing those. I love the idea of taking my emails and parsing all that information for me to help me understand without having to go through all those emails.
So again, the problem here is simply, this is, again, nothing they can do about this, but the seamless nature of the world should be that I pick up my phone and I say, hey, whatever, I want to hear that thing that I want to hear. I shouldn't have to look at it, log in, find the screen, go to the app, plug in headphones. Like, it should just be a seamless experience. And this is something Microsoft can't do on mobile unless you're using the Microsoft launcher, and they're getting rid of it there too. And I just don't.
So can I add one point that I don't think is that obvious? Cortana is going to be embedded in these apps, and it's going to be on by default. So unless you are somebody who knows to go turn it off to switch out, that's just going to be your default experience. Like, it's just going to happen.
I would also like to, this is a special thing. I don't know how it works on Android because I don't know how well the Android Assistant
it's
or the
not
Google
available
Assistant
yet on
works.
Android.
Okay, so this is pretty neat. Because of the way that iOS is set up with Siri, Siri has a feature called Siri Shortcuts. And if you can show my screen, I'll show this here. You can actually set up a shortcut called Play My Emails. And so I can say, hey, SIRI, play my emails, and it will automatically do that action. So, Paul, the thing that you're wanting, you can do on iOS. It does take a little bit more.
But that was my point. You can probably do it on Google too. That's exactly my point. It has to be the thing that's built in. That's how that will work.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's the only way really that people are going to do it.
It's understandable that Microsoft might want to build that into its own apps. What I'm saying is, for the truly seamless experience, you want what you just showed, which is you just pick. You don't have to. This whole thing where like I'm responsible for finding the app and then launching the functionality is ridiculous. You should just be able to say whatever, hello, whatever your name is, and this is what I want. It should just do it.
Right. I agree. Well, we're going to take another little break and get right back to it. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by ExpressVPN. That's right. That is the virtual private network technology that I've been using for a while now. It's a really reliable way to make sure that my data is secure on the network without having to worry about slowing down my internet speed. Sometimes you connect to a virtual private network and you are just chugging along so slowly, and you wish that you could keep those fast speeds. Well, ExpressVPN does a great job of letting you get that secure private network without having to worry about slowing things down. Of course, there's the question of, hey, why should I care about encrypting my data? Well, it's because it's easy for hackers to bypass Wi-Fi security and steal your information on public networks by exploiting flaws like crack, which is the key reinstallation attack. That's KRACK. And, you know, the researchers, the security researchers that find these different flaws and exploits, they give them clever names. But the point is there are always going to be exploits and flaws out there that people can take advantage of to take advantage of you. So you really need something to sort of serve as a protector between you and that issue. If you ever use Wi-Fi at a hotel or a shopping mall, you're sending data over an open network. That means that data is not encrypted, and you are potentially opening yourself up to vulnerabilities. The best way to ensure that all of your data is encrypted and can't be read by hackers is by using ExpressVPN. You can download the app on your computer or smartphone and then use the internet as you normally would. You just click one button to secure 100% of your network data. ExpressVPN is fast and reliable, and in fact, it's so reliable, so fast, and so great. It is the #1 recommended VPN provider by TechRadar and CNET. ExpressVPN takes privacy and security to the next level, though, and the way they do that is with a technology called Trusted Server to ensure that VPN servers run from RAM and no data logs are written to a server's hard drive, even by accident. So this is one of my favorite things about ExpressVPN that makes me geek out a little bit. I went in and learned a little bit more about Trusted Server, their Trusted Server technology. And one of the things that makes them different from other virtual private networks is that their servers are not hard drive systems. With hard drive systems, even on a VPN that you may trust, the problem is they have to go through and delete all of the data off of those hard drives. With RAM, it's random access memory, it's volatile. When the power goes off, that data is gone. And they are constantly making sure that data gets kicked and that it starts fresh. Along with that part of it, the running on RAM, the writing to RAM instead of writing to a hard drive, what's also incredible is that each of their servers gets restarted, and when it gets restarted, the software that they use is reinstalled every time. So they can count on every single one of their servers running the most up-to-date version of the software with no flaws, no exploits, none of that, as they continue to make those improvements. So it's pretty great for both of those reasons, and one of the things that sets ExpressVPN apart from the competition. And I don't know, there's something about that. It's just excellent. If you want the best in online security and privacy protection, you head over to expressvpn.com/windows for 3 extra months free with a 1-year package. Protect your internet today with the VPN I'm using to keep my data safe. You head to expressvpn.com/windows to get started. Thank you very much, ExpressVPN, for sponsoring this week's episode of Windows Weekly. Now, along with this announcement of Cortana coming to Outlook on mobile, there was an interesting new app that's just called Microsoft, or it's just called Office, if I'm not mistaken. And it's in beta on Android and iOS. Unfortunately, Apple caps iOS betas to 10,000 invites. And it was my understanding that it was all those spots were taken in the first day. So if you have an Android device, you can get on the beta for this?
You can. Yep.
Yeah, so this the Office app, it locks in everything. It's got all of the suite of the productivity suite. Is that correct?
Not all of it.
Oh.
It's got Word, Excel, and PowerPoint.
Oh, so no Note, OneNote.
Right. OneNote's separate.
Okay.
Yeah. So this thing is cool, right? This is this new Office mobile app. It combines those three things together. So, and the reason Microsoft's doing this is because if you think about how people use their phones, and you want to use Office, like download Word, download Excel, download PowerPoint. You're taking up all this room, taking up all this time, right? What if you could just get all three apps put together in a more compact way, right? All the features are there. They're just, Microsoft's done the magic to make this all work. The coolest thing to me, though, about it, when I saw the demo yesterday of this, they also are using this app to what do they call them? Actions, to surface these actions. Ooh. So a lot of times I forget that there are certain capabilities in the Microsoft apps that are really helpful when you're especially when you're on the go. You know, like there's a feature in I think it's Office Lens. You can take a picture of a table of numbers, right? And it will actually convert it into a spreadsheet that you can use in real life. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times I just forget that exists. So Microsoft's going to use this app to also make all these really handy actions available to you at your fingertips, so you won't have to try to remember, like, oh yeah, is there a way I can do that? So that's part of this app too.
It's like that.
Free.
Oh wait,
it's free.
It's free?
Yeah, it's free.
Wait, so you can use Word, Excel, and PowerPoint for free in this app?
Right. But if you need to unlock certain types of more intensive, tasks. Like if you really need to use Word, Excel, and PowerPoint with all the features enabled and not just, be looking at a spreadsheet or looking at a document. If you need to do more than light editing, you're going to have to subscribe to Office 365 to unlock the apps.
Okay. But the base features are for free. I love that actions thing because I didn't hear about that part. I'm of mixed opinion typically on sort of combining a bunch of services into one. iTunes got out of control with that. Apple ended up splitting iTunes into several different apps, which are also trash, but that's an aside. With this, I bet all the people listening to Windows Weekly right now are like, yeah, the Apple guy said something bad about Apple. Yeah. It happens all the time.
Yeah, we like him now.
Yeah, we like him now. Apple makes
I wasn't sure of him before, but now we like him.
Too. Yep. But I'm usually against that. However, I, for a long time, used, and still do, a service called Quip, which is a document creation tool. And they have one service that has the different, whether you're making a spreadsheet or you're making a document. And having those all in one thing and to be able to link different documents together or quickly get access to something else. And then, like you said, Mary Jo, finally we have a way to be reminded. They're always adding cool new features to apps and services, and we may not remember that they're there. And I like that real world example of it's not something that I'm going to come across a lot, but for a person who's working in numbers or measurements or whatever, that's great to have that feature there.
Couple of points to this app.
There's another one. Sorry, Paul.
Okay.
Go ahead. Oh, thanks. I was going to say there's another one, convert to PDF, right? Where you can convert a document automatically to a PDF that you can sign on your phone. Instead of, having to print it out and sign it and scan it, you can just do this really easily on your phone when you're on the go. And that's another one of these actions that they're going to make more visible to people so they know they can do this.
That's nice. I like empowering the user again. I think that should have been the thing instead of tech intensity. Paul, as the sort of more consumer-focused person, what are your thoughts on this?
Mary Jo hates consumer.
I do. I really hate it.
It's something I think needs to be highlighted more often. A couple of things to this app. One, for you Windows Phone holdouts that have been, kind of struggling with the move to Android or iOS, this app is very much like that Office Hub, right? That first existed in Windows Phone 7 series. So that's kind of cool. It doesn't have OneNote, but it's kind of a neat thing. Also, it kind of flies in the face of the whole mobile app ecosystem where one app does one thing. We just kind of talked about that earlier, and I think in this case it makes more sense. It's less stuff to hunt around for. It's like a single app. It's kind of a neat idea. The other thing is that this app debuted. I think it was back in August on the. I want to say it was the Note 10 series, right, from Samsung. Yeah.
Yep.
And at that time, there was some question about whether this was like a Samsung special thing where only, Samsung users are going to get it because they had some kind of partnership with Microsoft, blah, 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 and there's some concern there. So I'm really glad to see this thing happening, not just on other Android phones, but also on iOS. So it's neat to see that happen.
Yeah, in fact,
and there's a rumor.
Go ahead.
Hold on, there's a rumor that this app is going to be preloaded on the Microsoft Surface Duo, the dual screen phone.
Yeah.
Which you both have, right?
No.
They didn't slide you a Duo and a Neo?
It's very clear from the, when anyone on stage holds up one of these things that it is a piece of plastic, like a tricorder from Star Trek or something that doesn't actually do anything. It's always on the exact same screen. And I'm sure the form factor is right there, but whatever. Yeah, so they don't really exist yet.
Yeah, at least that's what you have to tell us. No, I kid.
No, that's what we've been. It's obvious. I mean,
right?
Yeah, we don't really have them. No, I don't. No one has them.
Right. Now, that was one of the things that I did find a little interesting is when we saw them announced and when we heard the phrase "Holiday 2020" over and over and over again, which I feel like I need a shirt that says "Holiday 2020." I don't know. Maybe it's a campaign. Maybe it's who knows.
That's good. They just have a little icon of a dual screen thing.
Yes. Oh man. See, now we've got a new thing we have to make. There's your Windows Weekly merch for 2020. Mm-hmm. My question is, let me write that down. Actually, Holiday 2020 shirt. No, is when they talked about it at the first event or at the event where it was announced. The big thing was we want to get this into the hands of developers so they can create experiences for it sooner rather than later. So I found it a little bit odd that we only got a brief mention of it here. Are there actual labs or something that are going on at the event?
Mary Jo, I was told about this and I don't remember. It couldn't have been incompetence. So I had a... So whatever. I'm just going to say it. So they are in fact going to be seeding developers with these devices early in the year next year. They can't remember if they've already reached out to some of these people, but what they're looking for are specific app experiences that are very important for this type of device, right? And they didn't name any companies, but obviously when you think about a dual screen device, whether it's a phone like the Duo, or just a dual screen kind of new form factor computing device that's running Windows, some kind of Windows. In addition to the user experience changes that occur because of the two screens in the OS, you also want apps that can take advantage of that kind of thing, right? Not just two separate apps like a note-taking app and a web browser running side by side, but a single app that's running with two different views and what apps make sense in that world. So those developers, those kind of Class A developers, are in fact going to be getting these devices sometime in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I heard the same.
That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, I couldn't remember how that was communicated.
If it was NDA, no, they are telling people that. Yeah.
If it was just a buddy telling me this, or if it was in fact an official thing, but the more I think about it, it was hopefully.
Yeah, it was an official briefing.
That's good. That's good. We've not spoiled anything. But I'm glad.
Well, it's not whatever.
That's
no big deal there, and it should be kind of obvious that they would do something like this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they did. They pretty much said that at the hardware event that they were going to get it into people's hands earlier. So I'm glad that is going to be is and that even though it's just a piece of plastic with a screen on it right now, that hopefully by early,
it's literally a prop from a Star Trek movie. It will eventually turn into something real.
So hopefully, within the coming year, early on, we'll see that. Now, this is another interesting feature. I'm all about the natural language processing across any service, any app, any whatever. And Excel is getting some natural language processing, correct?
Yeah. Yep. So this is really interesting, and this is really smart, and it's just in keeping with that whole empower the user thing that we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
If you think about how Excel works, and I use Excel so infrequently that the one thing I can basically do in Excel is add a column of values. You know, it's like that equals sum in parentheses A1 colon A. You know, I can do that kind of thing, but obviously to a normal human being, well, I am a normal, so that's literally all I can do. So I really don't understand how. I'm not an Excel person. I'm a Word person. So for the 99% of people in the world who are not Excel junkies, the ability to get in there and say, you know, basically type or say something to the effect of add the values or whatever. I mean, it's obvious. When you hear it, it's obvious. And I think that Microsoft has advanced its natural language capabilities to the point where when you hear they're doing this, you kind of think, wow, actually, I can't believe they haven't done this yet. This is such a great idea. And it should make Excel more accessible to more people.
I want to have that across all of the different spreadsheet apps that are out there, because I'm always going and then I have to go into the help document and look up the formula that I'm after.
Yeah, but you know, it's always in steps, and I don't know on the use a Mac probably, right? So I don't know if this feature is available in the Mac off the top of my head, but if you open, you know, Word or Excel or PowerPoint on Windows at least, you probably do have this. There's kind of a tell me kind of a functionality where you can actually just type in stuff. You know, and sometimes it's just as simple as I need to know where a command is in a menu or a ribbon or something, and it will actually guide you there.
Oh, neat.
Or I need to know how to make a chart, and it will kind of step you through the. And so this is really in some ways a natural evolution of stuff that's been around for a little while.
That is pretty nifty. And of course, Mary Jo is upset about this feature because it's for the consumer, which she does not like. So.
Yes, because
I hate consumers and comedy, by the way.
Oh, darn it. Well, I'm going to stop making
also comedy.
Oh, my God.
So again, we have the update happening to Outlook, and it's happening. We're seeing this happen on, what is it, even iOS? It's Outlook for Mac.
Basically everything Apple. Yeah.
But
Mac,
not Windows.
Right. And that's interesting, right? I have to think, I mean, I have not heard, but I mean, I have to think that the built-in mail and calendar app in Windows 10, and then also just the full-blown Outlook client that's part of Office, are going to be redone at some point, right? I mean, Outlook looks awesome on the web. It looks awesome now on the Mac. It looked great on the Mac before. It's awesome on mobile. Why wouldn't it look great on Windows? I don't know. I mean, it might be it's just the toughest one to do because it's got the biggest history, and especially the rich client that's part of Office is something that predates Outlook. I mean, the Outlook app is based on something called Schedule Plus, which goes back to at least the mid-'90s. It's been around for a long time, so I don't know.
You have to be careful with giving. I mean, I remember when Twitter redesigned its logo. Any company, they redesigned their logo, and people immediately hate the thing.
It's a little more complicated than that, because Outlook, if you think about Twitter, like an app like Twitter, right, or a web experience like Twitter, there were probably like 127 different things you could do in there, and you know, there are 120, like as Microsoft calls them, like commands, right? Outlook probably has 11,000, you know, whatever, and some of them are really esoteric and only used by some people. Many of them date back literally 20, 25 years, whatever it is. And, you know, we all love like simplified minimalistic apps or whatever, but man, you strip out a feature that anybody uses and you're going to hear about it.
Yep.
I think it's really bad for something like Outlook because there's just so much there. It's just such a dense application of, you know, dense with functionality.
So they're probably going to do what they did with Skype for the longest time, where you could use old Skype for a long time, even after the new Skype was out.
Yeah.
Well, you can keep using your old Outlook if you want to, so that you stop shouting at us about it. But eventually, we're going to have to move you up to the new one.
I think so, and I think that has to happen on. Yeah, I hope so.
I mean, the email and calendar apps that are built into Windows 10, they aren't even the same. They're just like built by a totally different team. They're not even built by the same team, right?
Yeah.
So it's very weird.
Maybe that will be my next project. I'll recreate those apps and make them better, because they're just so bare bones.
Please do. For those of us who are consumers,
Sorry,
need help with that. Yeah. When we come back from this break, we'll talk about Credge, and hopefully Mary Jo will show off her awesome sticker again. And maybe she'll get one for me, but that's just a hint. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by the leader in address verification. That's Melissa. That's right, Melissa. Every address is covered from Adelaide, Australia to Zipaquirá, Colombia, and everywhere in between. We all know there's nothing good about bad data. It costs money, it hurts sales, and decreases customer satisfaction. If bad addresses, duplicate records, and bouncing emails are hurting your business, isn't it time to come clean with Melissa? Delta Faucet, Z1 Motorsports, and Car2Go use Melissa. You should too. Delta Faucet was able to improve their call center processes with global address auto-completion. Melissa was able to reduce the fraudulent e-commerce transactions for Z1 Motorsports by 90%. Melissa provides a full spectrum of data quality protection for your customer data. You can verify postal addresses, mobile numbers, and email addresses, update the addresses of customers that have moved, and eliminate duplicate records. Gain additional customer insight into your data with Melissa's analytics. See, the problem with bad data is that it's not only a problem for you as a company where you're losing out on money by sending emails and mailers and things like that to addresses that aren't there, that have changed, but it's also for the customers on the other end. You, of course, want to send the mailers to the people who want the mailers, and you don't want to send the mailers to the people who don't want the mailers, because that's a waste of your time, a waste of your money, and then you get grouchy people on the other end. So you can make everyone's day by using Melissa. You can easily build address verification and customer data validation into your custom application using Melissa's APIs, CRM cloud connectors, and e-commerce plugins, or you can just upload your customer file for a quick data cleanse. It's like sending it through the car wash, and out on the other end comes your beautiful data that is actually verified. Melissa is also serious about securely managing your data. So if you have a concern about your customer data being breached there, know that Melissa takes that seriously. They continually undergo independent security audits to reinforce their commitment to data security, privacy, and compliance requirements. That's SOC 2, that's HIPAA, and GDPR. They're compliant. Mailers spend about $20 billion annually in undeliverable mail. $20 billion of undeliverable mail. Don't lose customers. Don't lose cash. Make every address count. Bad data happens to good companies. That's why 10,000 organizations worldwide trust Melissa to get their customer data clean and accurate. Get started today with 25,000 records cleaned for free when you go to melissa.com/twit. So once again, you need to go to melissa.com/twit or call 1-800-MELISSA, MELISSA, to find out more and get 25,000 records cleaned free. That's pretty great. I was very, very happy to be able to explain to Jason. Now, they're calling it Edge, but what you really need to know is that it's called Credge because it's based on Chromium, and that means that it's the Credge browser. I was a little smug, but yes, look at that. That is wonderful.
So I made a T-shirt about Credge. It
And
got
she
a mixed
wore it.
reception here. I wore it
Really?
yesterday, and
It got a
mostly
mixed
positive. Mostly
Okay.
positive. But the Edge team doesn't want us to call it Credge.
Oh, I see. Because it's just Edge.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
We're
Now
gonna
we
get
have
to that.
Edge and Legacy Edge, right?
There you go. I
That's
guess
the
we're
new
gonna
way
get
to
to it.
refer to the current Edge.
a legacy Edge. Let's see.
Yeah.
So
because to date we've been calling it like the new Edge. You know, you're like, how do you refer to this thing?
Right.
I know.
And
It's just
Yep.
just
It was
Microsoft
Credge.
Edge.
So we have now, it's going to be shipping soon. Is that correct? It's not out, but you can start using it if you want to.
Yeah. You've been able to use it in various channels, Canary, Beta, and Dev. But as of this week, you can check out the release candidate, which is the very near final version of it. And I think that's the same as the latest beta version that came out.
So
I think the beta version is.
Where do I go to get that? Because right now I have Credge, but it's just showing up as this ugly.
Oh, you want to fix it?
I want to have the logo, the new logo.
I can tell you how to do that.
Oh yeah, here we go. Now we're getting into it.
Go to the settings menu. Run the browser. First of all, you have to make sure it's up to date.
Okay.
So open the menu, then go to settings.
Okay.
And then go to, on the left, About Microsoft Edge. And it will check for an update.
Okay.
And then under About, does it say it's updating?
It looks like it's updating, yeah.
Okay.
65%. We've got pretty quick speeds here.
Yeah.
Aha. Restart it. All right. We're doing that.
Now, if it restarts.
Yes.
And you get the new logo, then you're done.
Yep. That's it. I'm done. I've got it.
Done. Okay, good.
Thank you.
There you go.
That was great.
Because there's a trick if it doesn't appear. But
do you want to share the trick with the audience just in case?
Yeah, maybe this build was out because maybe they just fixed it. But the trick is if you go to settings and then go to profiles. And on mine it should say personal, and then your email address sync is on. There's like 3 little dots right there.
Yes.
And if you click edit, you can change the name of the profile.
Okay.
And when you change the profile name, it will pop and the new icon will appear.
Oh, well, there you go. That's how you would do that.
Yeah.
But I do have the new logo. It's like I stuck the sticker right there onto my, what's it called, taskbar? Pin tab?
Taskbar.
Thank you for that. So what can people expect in this new Microsoft Edge that we secretly call Credge so we don't get the Microsoft Edge team mad at us? I know that there's excellent new do not track me options, which are great. What else do we get here?
There's a feature called Collections that some people like. I believe it's under one of the flags.
That some people like.
Some people like. So you know what it is? For me, people. I would use OneNote for this. So if you're out browsing around and you want to save a bunch of pages so that you can compare things, what I would do is clip pieces of information and put them in OneNote. But using this collection feature, which is available from right inside the browser, you could do something similar and have everything available that you just browsed for in one place.
My question there, so the example they gave was if you were, and again, this was coming from like an IT pro's perspective, if you're in charge of buying devices, then you could easily list the different devices and show how much they cost, et cetera. But could I use this for anything? Say that I'm just, a lot of times there may be, I'm browsing the web but I'm specifically, maybe I've fallen down a Wikipedia hole, as often happens, and I'm getting into something. Can I save anything, or is it just for like product pages and stuff like that?
You should be able to save anything.
My understanding is it's anything.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like this tool because right now what I do as a Mac user on Safari browser is I've got all these tabs open, and I just go up to the menu and I choose Save All Tabs as bookmarks. And there's something much more elegant about this solution where it feels...
Actually, I think this solution is in many ways a sequel to a feature in the original, the Legacy Edge, that was similar to what you just described, where you could set tabs aside, and then you could name that group of tabs as something. So maybe you were researching like flights to Mexico or a new camera or whatever it might have been. And you save that with some kind of a name, and then you can bring those tabs back together, which is essentially what you just said, right? So it's kind of a way to, declutter the interface, get all those tabs out of the way, continue working. But if you want to go back, you can. This kind of changes the focus to things rather than websites, essentially. So I think it's arbitrary. You could probably use it for just anything.
I like that it pulls the metadata for whatever, and so you can synthesize that data kind of down to the important parts of it. And seeing this as the jumping off point, I'm sure that it could be taken further as improvements get made, where if you do, I don't think I remember seeing this, so correct me, let me know if this was a feature, but if you were collecting a bunch of products, it would be nice if you could then make an Excel spreadsheet out of it, and you suddenly got the table and all that information.
So I don't know about that particular functionality, but the first thing that comes to my mind with this kind of thing is related to what Mary Jo said earlier, which is that it's a little weird they didn't just integrate like a light version of OneNote into this and have that thing be like a notebook in OneNote. So I think the obvious thing that they should add is the ability to export a collection to a OneNote notebook, because I think that's kind of the next level for this kind of thing. But yeah, I guess you could make the argument for any app in Office, basically. I mean, why not? Put it into Word or PowerPoint or whatever.
You're researching for a presentation and you want to easily make slides out of that would be great. Huh. All right. Well, Microsoft.
We'll see if it's successful and if it where they take it.
I'll stop calling it Credge if you do this for me. How about that? There's the deal.
Yeah, there's a ton of other features in it. I mean, a lot of them are similar to what is in Chrome, but there are some different ones too, like IE mode for people who still have to use Internet Explorer. There's a lot in there. Mm-hmm. Oh, and the final version is coming out on January 15th, 2020, they said this week also.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that's not too far away from now.
It's not that far away. Yeah.
It is, that's pretty much holiday 2019, frankly.
Another shirt.
We've got to get on that one pretty quick. Now we have Surface, the Surface devices going into businesses as opposed to what we had like education and consumers before. They've got a three-pronged strategy now, like a trade.
I mean, so they have been selling to businesses, but and so that's not new. I mean, it's not like they didn't. They've had a business store for a while now, but of course, once you serve this market, you have to kind of really meet the needs of that market, right? So one of the things Microsoft doesn't do that companies like HP and Dell and others probably do is offer this kind of a guarantee on, peripheral compatibility. If you think about like a typical laptop, like the way that you're powering it, the way that it might dock to things, the way that you might be able to pop out a battery or a hard drive or something and replace it with something else, or, whatever the various things are, these companies ensure that when you buy from them that you're going to be able to buy stuff that will work with this product for like 10 years or whatever the time frame is. So Microsoft doesn't actually do that. And what they've gotten is a set of requests from their enterprise customers, which of course are their most important customers, who have said, look, we really like, obviously everyone loves the style of your products and everything, but we need certain things to be able to move forward with this. And so this year they're trying to address those issues. So they still don't have that kind of formal support thing, although they have done a really good job of, carrying forward with Surface Connect and all the compatibility that goes there. If you buy a Surface Pro, it's backwards compatible with the type covers and pens that go back to at least Surface Pro 4, if not Surface Pro 3. So there is some of that. But I was interested. They had a little private session for the press where they talked about this, and they said that the three biggest issues that they raised, all of which they started addressing with this generation of products, were USB across the board, better serviceability, by which we mean some serviceability, because honestly, I don't think Surface devices were serviceable almost at all, especially laptop. And then consistency for previously purchased peripherals, right? And so, people like me that are, wonder why they don't have Thunderbolt 3 support, et cetera, in many ways are kind of missing the point, because Microsoft's customers are like, look, we want to make sure that the docks we bought, the type covers we bought, whatever, all that stuff works. And so that's one of those things that they kind of worked on. But there's a lot that goes into this. I mean, obviously, if you like, for example, Surface Pro 7 is kind of an interesting product because it's literally identical to its predecessor. And to tech reviewers, that's kind of boring, right?
Right.
But to Microsoft's customers, they have special cases that they bought that, protect the device, or some kind of special mount. And so one of the things that those customers demand is like, look, we're going to get the new one, but everything has to fit.
Yeah.
So if I pull the case over it to protect it, the portholes all have to be in the same place. So even though they swapped out, USB-C for, or the reverse mini display port for USB-C, the USB-C hole, the port itself is literally in exactly the same place. And that's by design. So that's, it's boring, but boring is what sells. And so they're taking steps to address this stuff. And I know for laptops, some people have said, yeah, it's cute that you can service the keyboard now and you can service the SSD, but you can't you can't replace the RAM, you can't replace the battery, which is actually the big one. And that's a case where they were like, look, this is the first step. This is what we can do without changing the literal form factor. Because the consistency thing is still an issue. That still has to be the case, and it is kind of neat that Surface Pro or Surface Laptop 3 is basically identical to the previous two from a form factor perspective. But you can screw off the feet, you can take the cover off. Like these things before, if you had to replace like the Alcantara or the keyboard, you basically were destroying the machine to do it. And so they've made like big steps in those directions. Not always equally from device to device, but that's the combined set of goals kind of going forward. So I thought that was kind of interesting because, I looked at Surface Pro 7. I was like, and then, but you kind of hear the story and the rationale behind it. And you're like, okay, actually, it does make sense. And of course, they do have a new machine, right? Surface Pro X, which has a different form factor, different type cover. The ports are different and all that kind of stuff. And that's the modern design. And that's, if you want to make a wholesale change to something different, that's fine. They have that now too, but they maintain the compatibility for the old one.
Right. So the Surface Pro 10 is sort of X. See, there I go.
Yeah.
Is the one where they could try out new things, and then they kept the Surface Pro 7 the same so that they could still serve the business. And I see in your review of the Surface Pro 7 that Surface Pro 7 has a Credge sticker on it.
Yes, it does.
I love that orange Surface Pen. Is that what it's called?
I do too. It's kind of a deep red. They don't call it blood red, but they could. It's like a kind of a really crimson red color.
It's like
it's neat.
Crimson, a little coppery.
And by the way, that's the cool thing about Surface Pro. Some people harp on the fact that they don't really bundle the type cover with, you're going to buy it separately. It's like, that's the point. You get to choose the color, the material. You can get a matching pen if you want. You can get a matching mouse if you want. It's not in the box. That's literally the point. You get to choose. I think it's a selling point.
Yeah.
The personalization of it. Mary Jo does not.
I think it's cool that there's choice, but I still think it's weird that the keyboard is sold separately. I don't know. Like you have to pay for something.
Mary Jo hates consumers. Let's see, what is it? Consumers?
I hate consumers,
humor,
and I hate choice
and comedy. So it's all
it's the three C's.
Yeah.
Consumers, comedy, and choice.
No, because they give you a starting price for the device, but it means it's without a keyboard, which we know, but a lot of people don't. And then they're like, oh, wait, now you have to buy another $150 keyboard.
So if I could get into the awkward position of defending Microsoft, which I kind of have to say I'm a little queasy about, I will just add that one of the nice things, again, about this compatibility thing that they're so concerned with is it's 2019 and you have a 3-year-old Surface 4 or whatever that is, and you want to replace the computer, but you can bring your peripherals for it. So you don't have to pay for something don't necessarily need to replace.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
So that's...
Don't ever make me do that again.
Sorry. I know. You're feeling really queasy right now.
I might fall off the chair.
Oh, my goodness. So don't forget to check out the Microsoft Surface Pro 7 review on Thurrott.com. Let's see. What else have we got here? What's next on the list? WinUI. So this is something that I think I saw both of you tweeting about.
Yeah.
What are we getting excited about here? Because it's an alpha for now.
Right. The thing that you should be getting excited about is Microsoft is doing what they said they were going to do at Build, which is try to reduce the divide between Win32 and UWP.
Okay.
Right. WinUI 3, which is an alpha this week and going to be out sometime next year, not next week. This is really the quick. This is the new Windows UI platform. So we're not going to be talking anymore about UWP apps and Store apps and Win32 apps. It's going to be one big happy app, Windows app family.
Yeah, sure it is.
So that makes it easier for developers to be able to create for different devices, or how? Because I was just going to say there's a big difference between a Windows PC and an Xbox, and maybe there is. I don't know. I guess there might not be. I don't know.
No, there is. Okay. So the trick is so UWP is an application framework that works across device types, right? So that's the thing that does work on Xbox, Surface Hub, HoloLens, and Windows PCs, right? And so there's some value to that for sure. The problem is that by forcing developers who wanted to target Windows 10 to go to UWP, you were also constraining their capabilities in other areas because they were familiar with other frameworks or just straight up Win32, whatever. So by separating out this user interface layer and not making it part of UWP, but making it available to all developers on Windows, people who have already got code bases in Windows Forms or in Windows Presentation Foundation, which are older frameworks, or straight up Win32 apps, which is kind of the bare metal, native application environment that's really, really dated, but there's a bunch of, big legacy apps that are written in that. They're going to be able to make their apps look more modern and take advantage of all these features that previously were only available to UWP apps. So this is huge. I mean, this is a really big deal. So I don't know when this happens, in final form. Probably
sometime next year. Yeah,
next year sometime. But it doesn't help people on Windows 7 or Windows 8X or whatever, which is probably fine. But the idea here is that you can have an application that runs across all versions of Windows, and when you run it on Windows 10, it's going to look really modern because you're going to be able to take advantage of those modern controls and user interface widgets or whatever. So it's without having to rewrite it for UWP.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, this is good for compatibility across the board. That's
it's just nice. There's a lot of stuff in the Microsoft world where they finally get not forced, but they finally agree to do something like this, and it's like, they should have done this on day one. They didn't, but at least they're doing it now.
Yeah. Up next, we have finally a new feature. What? Windows 10 gets an update that includes some new features, not just bug fixes. Quick Search. What does Quick Search do for Elvis?
Wait, are you running an insider build on Elvis or no?
Oh no, this is
it's not going to do anything for Elvis until about April or maybe May of 2020.
Well, I guess I'll sign up for the insider. No, I'm just kidding. For now, anyway. I probably who knows? Who knows?
This is an incredibly boring edition. It's really it's only available, I believe, in the United States for now. It is related to Windows Search. And what all it does is give you, remember, we talked about I got to bring this up so I can see what it looks like. We talked about the kind of the pivots you can make right now when you do a search on Windows between all possible locations and then like apps, documents, email, web, etc.
Oh, yes. Yes.
This is basically going to be pivots where you can get search options for weather, top news, today in history, and new movies for some reason. So it's just like a way to access this. It's basically just a filter in the start menu. So 20H1 is looking really exciting, as you can tell, because this is the first new feature we've had in like 4 builds, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, can Windows Search? I hit the Windows key and start typing. Can it look up like flight numbers? Can it look up that kind of information?
I don't think that. Let me try something right. And as I do this, yes. Actually, yes. I was going to say I don't think it appears right in the pane. Actually, it literally does. Oh. So if you type in something like AA for American Airlines and then like a flight number, I just typed in something random. I don't know my actual flight number tomorrow, but I typed in 1781, which apparently, interestingly, is a flight between Philadelphia and Denver. And yes, you got that information. You should try it yourself, actually, right now. It's cool.
I did, and it is popping up. That's cool. So. That is, I was going to compare it to using Spotlight on the Mac because I do genuinely, I don't take a lot of flights, but I use it for other sorts of information that it's pulling from the web. So I like that this is available right here without having to go to the browser.
Be interested to see if you do this kind of thing because I can say that in my experience, it's been kind of spotty. And, for example, in the legacy version of Microsoft Edge, Microsoft built in this Cortana feature that I thought was really cool. Where you search for a restaurant in the in the address bar, and a little Cortana animation would occur, and it said, "Hey, this is the one that's really close to you, and you want to go there or whatever." And I thought that was a really neat feature, but they never expanded it past restaurants.
Oh,
so it's like the only thing it ever worked for, and I don't believe it's in the new version. So you may find that some of the things that you can do in Spotlight, is that still the name of it?
Yeah, Spotlight. Mm-hmm.
May or may not be available in Windows. I'm not 100% sure what the...
I'm running some quick little tests here, and I'm seeing quite a few that are available. So
cool.
That's good.
So when you originally asked me about the flights, what I thought you would have to do is go to the web tab, and that you would be able to get that, but it would come up in a web page. I actually didn't expect that to come up in the pane, but that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. So more of our searching can take place there, which is nice. Now, I was trying to quickly learn about skip ahead ring
Don't.
But it's going away. So who cares? Who cares about skip ahead ring? No, I assume this is for people. If we're talking about the rings, the ring you can be on, this is one that's way far ahead in the future. You're running like the early access stuff.
Do you want to take this or should I?
You can.
Okay, so back in the good old days when we only had 2 rings, it was really obvious how things worked. You were fast, you were slow. And if you were fast, you would get probably a build up just about every week. And if you were slow, it was like every 6 weeks or something like that. And you were always testing the next version of Windows. It made sense. Every 6 months there'd be a new version. You would be testing that version in the build up to that time frame, and that's how it worked. Mm-hmm. I don't remember when or how this happened, but at some point they added skip ahead. And skip ahead was a way for people who were in the fast ring. It's not technically a new ring, but it was basically an extension of the fast ring where you could actually skip ahead and test the next version instead of sticking to the currently tested version. But then last year when they started testing 28.1 early, skip ahead and fast ring became the same thing. If I'm not mistaken, there was no difference between them. And I think because this style, this new way of developing Windows or testing Windows is going to be the norm, I believe is the reason they got rid of it. And so by just having fast and slow, it's not what they were in the beginning, which I still think makes tons of sense. I think it's the fast ring will always be faster. You may at some point again be testing like 2 versions out or whatever, but they've kind of just cut it back to the 2 rings. I think actually there's a 3rd ring. Sorry, there's a release preview ring as well.
Release preview.
Probably shouldn't muddy the water too much with that one, but that's my understanding.
And there's a secret ring.
Have I confused everybody?
Only slightly, but basically the skip ahead. There's no point for the skip ahead ring to exist going forward, so they're going to get rid of it. Yeah.
I think that's my understanding. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, goodbye, we say to the skip ahead ring. I guess there has to be scare quotes around rings.
Fast ring with starting with 28.1, fast ring became skip ahead, and that literally is what it was. Maybe that has worked for them, and they feel like maybe they should just do this going forward.
All right. Well, let's end the confusion with our tip of the week. How about that?
This one's actually pretty cool. Microsoft, I don't know why they did this, but this past week they announced or pre-announced or kind of previewed some of the deals that they're going to have on Black Friday, right? And Black Friday being a set of dates, not a date, right, or a day.
Right.
And they did so in 2 different places. So for the Microsoft Store, which is online and retail, actual like walk-in store, and then for Xbox. The Xbox one was really light. They mentioned some controllers. They mentioned, I think, one game or something. It's not really that super interesting, but obviously there'll be more. This is just a preview. The more interesting one to me was the Microsoft Store deals, because most, if not all, of the new Surface devices are all going to be on sale. And there's probably no better way to kill your sales in early November than by announcing that you can save $300 if you just wait until Black Friday. It's different dates for each device. I know Surface Laptop 3 and Surface Pro 7 at least. I can't remember now if Pro X is part of it, but will be on sale starting on different dates, different deals on each. But some of the deals are astonishing. So if you look at the base price for like a Surface Pro 7, when you tack on the type cover, which you absolutely do need, and then you upgrade it to a version with an i5, which you absolutely do want, it can be very expensive, like $1,300. But that machine, I think, is going to be, this is off the top of my head, I should probably just look at it rather than to say this, but I believe it's $799 or $899. It's a crazy sale. And then the Surface Laptop 3 essentially pretty much across the board is $300 off. So if these machines were a little too expensive for you, strongly recommend waiting and also paying it and going to the Microsoft blog post. I linked to it in my post where you can find the exact deals. So yeah, Surface Pro 7, I did get this right. So normally $1,029 for the i5 with 8 gigs and 120 gigs of storage is $799, or will be $799. Surface Laptop 3 basically are $300 across the board. Surface Go will be up to $150 off. Surface Book 2 will be up to $500 off. So actually Surface Pro X is not part of this sale.
Wow.
But Some good savings.
I like what you said there. It is a little confusing to sort of pre-announce your deals and then have everybody wait. But hopefully there'll be more opportunities for sales, whatever it actually happens, that people will hop on.
No, there's going to be a lot more than that, for sure. And there'll be third-party PCs that aren't for sale at the store as well. There'll be all kinds of stuff. So it's just a preview. Get
your pocketbooks ready, folks. Go ahead and balance your checkbooks now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Your Excel spreadsheets, get those balanced. What is our app pick of the week? A bit of a zombie pick, it seems.
Yeah, I'm picking an app that's 3 years old. So actually, I will say we buried the lead at this year's Ignite. I think the biggest news from the show is that they're going to fully support OneNote 2016 again. So for those of you who don't know, Microsoft, of course, originally developed OneNote as part of, Office 2003 probably. And so it's kind of a classic legacy Office app. It's built to look and feel a lot like Word or Excel. It's a big app in many ways, and it's evolved over the years, of course. But some number of years ago, they developed a lighter client for Windows 10. And then last year, I think back in maybe April or May, they announced that they were no longer going to update OneNote 2016, which is the big Office application, the desktop app, and that they would only be adding new features to the Windows 10 version of the app. And this was very contentious, right? There are OneNote aficionados who love particular features that are only available in the desktop app, et cetera. And then it didn't help matters that when Office 2019 came out, they never made a new version of OneNote. The OneNote client that was built into Windows 10 is it. That was the deal. And then this week they said, we understand people like choice, so if you want to use the other one, we're going to fully support it, and we're going to bring new features, starting with dark mode. You have to be an Office 365 subscriber. You can't just get the free version off the web. But if you do subscribe, and they're going to put it back into the bundle, so if you download Office 365 from the web, as you do, I'm not sure if they've done this yet, but at some point, you're going to get what is essentially OneNote 2016 for the first time in a long time. Right now, that's an optional separate install. So interesting. And I think what happened was a bunch of people complained, and they finally said, look, we got to just do the right thing here.
Do the right thing, bring it back, and support it, by golly.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the enterprise. What do you have for us here, Mary Jo?
So this is a very alarming enterprise pick of the week. It's not a positive one, but it's something I want to warn people about, because when I first learned about this, I thought it was fake, but it is real. So Microsoft is starting to hit capacity issues with Azure. Yes, the cloud is full. Not making this up.
The cloud is full.
The cloud is full.
Right.
We're going to need a bigger cloud.
Exactly. So some people have been trying to spin up certain types of virtual machines in Azure in the U.S. East 2 region, have been told by Microsoft, sorry, we don't have room for that. And I've heard it from not just one person. I've heard it from multiple people. I've also heard from some people that other Azure regions are also hitting capacity issues for SQL Server and other things. So, if you're a glass half full person or a marketing person for Azure, you're like, this is good news. It means everybody's going to Azure. But if you're a normal person or a customer, it's not good news, because you're being told you can't use the cloud in the elastic and scalable way that you have been told you should be able to. I got to interview Jason Zander this week, who is the head of Azure at Microsoft, and I asked him about this, and he said, you know what, we're adding capacity as fast as we can. So they're acknowledging this is an issue, and they're trying to get around it by bringing on board more data centers and more servers. The problem is we just don't know when that capacity will be available. So just if you're a brand new Azure customer and you're counting on using the US East 2 region and also some of the other regions, make sure that you are actually going to be able to use it the way you want before you make a big commitment.
Holy moly. The cloud is full. That is something.
That's weird.
I know.
You're going to have to delete some old stuff in the cloud, make some space.
Exactly. Yeah, I got to remove all of my albums, my U2 albums that are in there.
No, I think they're slightly bigger problems than a U2 album. It's like,
are there any bigger problems than a U2 album, really?
Yeah.
Really?
We noticed you haven't spun up this VM in a few months. We're going to get rid of it.
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine?
You don't need that VM, right?
Is your next enterprise pick a happy one?
It is.
Good.
It's a pretty happy one. So there's a thing that Microsoft offers called the Microsoft Managed Desktop. And what that is Microsoft will actually do a lot of your IT work for you if you have Windows 10 devices. They'll provision them, they'll maintain them, they'll handle all the patching and updating of them for you. And they're doing that as a service. So this week, they introduced a service that's very similar to this. It's called Microsoft Managed Rooms. And this is meeting rooms as a service. So, when you go into a meeting room sometimes in your company and things are broken, like the cameras aren't working, batteries are dead, you can't get everybody on the phone because there's some issue. So Microsoft sees all these pain points and hears about all these pain points in meeting rooms. So now they're going to try to make that a service where they maintain your conference room for you and turn it into a smart Teams room. And they maintain it, they check your cameras, and they have a dashboard that you as a customer can see in terms of where your problems are. So Microsoft will say to you, hey, you've got some cameras in this conference room that aren't working, and you can go proactively fix them before the meeting happens in there.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
I know. Yeah, so it's in private preview right now. It's been tested by a number of select companies up to this point, and Microsoft is broadening the private preview this week, and by mid-2020, I believe they're saying this should be commercially available for anybody who wants to buy it. So again, this is not for a small customer, definitely not for consumers. It's for big enterprises.
The chat room
That's why it's her pick.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly it. Which C is that? The second one or the first one?
I wanted to find something that would specifically screw over consumers.
The chat room is asking, do we think that the reason there's no more room in the cloud is because Jedi, darn it, I just spoiled it, because Microsoft won the Jedi contract?
No, that has nothing to do with it because USDOD is a separate region in Microsoft's cloud that's entirely separate from their commercially available regions, and that has nothing to do with this.
There you go. There's your answer, conspiracy theorists.
I know. Everybody,
but you would say
thought
that.
Right?
Yeah, you would say that if you were.
You're part of the conspiracy. It's,
that's the one C you do like.
Comedy.
Conspiracy.
Yeah.
Conspiracy. What was the other one?
Consumers, comedy.
Consumers, comedy, and...
Oh, man, what was it?
It wasn't Credge.
No, it wasn't Credge. Consumers, comedy. Chat room, help me out.
That's funny. No one can remember it.
Yeah.
What's the other C? We're both so tired because we've been running around like nuts.
And those 4 glasses in Paul's room apparently played a
part.
part.
That didn't help.
We'll think of it.
Instagram.
Somebody
will
remember.
Went wrong.
It wasn't cloud. We love cloud. Consumers, comedy, and something else. It is confusion.
Whatever it was. Confusion.
And it's not cats. All right. Tell us about your beverage pick of the week so we can all enjoy it while we try to think of that third C.
Well, I actually have to have Paul talk about this because I did not partake of the beverage pick of the week. And this is what was in those 4 glasses in his room.
Really quick, before you say that, Karsten came and saved the day. It was choice. Consumers, comedy, and choice. Yeah.
Right.
Consumers, comedy, choice, and conspiracy. The Mary Jo story.
It is, pretty much. And Credge. You're going to put Credge
That's
in
good.
there.
That's the T-shirt. Just have the words go down, with a Credge logo at the top.
Yeah. All right, Paul, you got to talk about the Bev pick of the week.
So Kyle Rosenthal is the sticker guy we were talking about earlier. He's just a sweetheart of a guy, and he's been really nice. This is the second trip in a row he's brought from Australia some whiskey for us to try. He brings this. He's brought Tasmanian whiskey on both of the trips, and this time he also brought an Irish whiskey. And I didn't understand until that second night, last night, that it's literally an Irish whiskey, which means we might be able to find this. I thought it was an Irish-style whiskey from Australia.
Oh.
It's called Writer's Tears. And if you're familiar with Jameson or any other, kind of classic Irish whiskey, this is a really good take on that kind of a thing. It might even be better than Jameson. And, of course, the name is priceless and perfect for us.
Right.
You weren't probably around for this, but we were talking one day on Windows Weekly about how all of the icons for the Office applications are specific colors, right? So Excel is green for money. PowerPoint is red or reddish orange. I'm not really sure what the reason is there. But word is blue for depression because writers are, this is the way we are.
Yes.
And of course, calling this Irish whiskey Writer's Tears is such a beautiful and perfect name. And it's an excellent Irish whiskey. It's excellent.
Oh, man. Well, I wish I could add that to my list, but apparently I've got to go to Ireland to have it. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I mean, Mary Jo and I were in Ireland just about a year ago, and I've never seen this. I mean, so maybe it's brand new, but if he can get it in Australia, it's possible we'll be able to buy it here in the United States. If not immediately, then sometime soon. So it's something to look out for.
There we go. Writer's Tears, something to look out for.
Yes. Share the pain.
We've all got it. Well, folks, it looks like we've reached the end of another episode of Windows Weekly. I hope that you two can get some rest. I know you've been hard at it. I don't know. How long does Ignite last? How long will you be there?
I'm leaving tomorrow.
Oh, that's good.
I'm leaving tomorrow as well. These are long days. I mean, it's tough because we have, things like this are the podcasts that we do at the same time every week. And so those things still have to happen. And then we're writers. And so, of course, we still have to write. And there's stuff to write at the show, but, the show also gets in the way. I mean, today is a very rare day for me. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. I haven't written anything today. That never happens to me. And so I'm going to try to get some writing done, when this is over. But it's so busy.
Yeah.
And it's just an explosion of sight, sound, and information. So
well, hang in there.
And whiskey.
Hang in there.
Actually, let me give you guys a little, I should say one more. This should have been my tip. All of the sessions at Ignite and then Keynote as well are available on Channel 9. And so for people like Mary Jo and I who don't get to go a lot of the sessions because we're busy, you can go back you can watch them on the plane ride home. You can just stream them later. That stuff is all available. So even though I didn't get to go to any sessions, I'm still going to be able to watch whatever sessions I do want to watch on demand, or I can download them. So that's something that everyone should avail themselves of. Go to Channel 9, look up I'm sure it's prominently displayed now, but find the Ignite videos and just look through the topics. And it's like being there.
Awesome. Yeah, so Apple typically makes those available afterward as well, a little, and even sometimes during. So I always would love to go back and check those out.
Oh, they're all available now.
I'm definitely going to be,
not all of them, but most of them. Yeah,
the ones that I got to go check out the workflow type stuff. That's no longer called Flow, but it's called Power Automate. Power Automate. I'm trying to lock that in.
How can you not remember that? There was only one thing in the whole show.
Right. By the way, I'm being told again in the chat that a Bevmo store nearby has 3 bottles of Writer's Tears in stock. Writer's Tears, in stock. So
again, if you like Irish whiskey, and I do, Irish whiskey is my preferred whiskey. It's one of the better ones I've ever had.
All right. Excellent. Well, Paul Thurrott of Thurrott.com, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hang in there, and we're looking forward to seeing more of your writing. And Mary Jo Foley, I know there have been a lot of consumers today, and I'm sorry about that. There's been a little bit of comedy, and I'm sorry about that. Yeah. And a little bit of choice, but I'm not sorry about the choice, I gotta say.
No, choice is good.
But how do you feel about the conspiracy?
Yeah, but this
is right. And Credge.
And Credge, of course. Credge. Thank you.
I do have a sticker for you, Micah. I have one.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so excited. So check out allaboutmicrosoft.com, Thurrott.com. You've got to check out their great work. And again, I thank you both for helping me to make sense of the things earlier this week as we were covering it. It was very great. I believe next week will be my last episode with you until next time. So we will say goodbye after that. Leo, of course, for those who don't know, is on vacation.
Hopefully we can figure out power apps before that happens.
Yes, let's hope that next week we can come and make our own power apps. But thank you. Of course, the show records live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. That's 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 1900 UTC. You can head to twit.tv/WW to subscribe to the podcast in audio and video form, or check it out on YouTube. If you want to tune in live, you just head to twit.tv/live, and you can hang out in the chat and tell me where I can get whiskey. We do appreciate that service as well. So tune in next time, and once again, get some rest, you two. You've done some hard work so far, and I know you're going to continue to put out great content. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.